Hi, my name is Jamie Frazier. At age 6, I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. That day started off like any other normal day. My mom was braiding my hair as I was getting ready for the first grade, and then the phone rang. And as soon as I knew it, I was rushed to the hospital. I was stuck in a room with a bunch of doctors using big words that I didn't understand, telling me, oh, you're having a sleepover in the hospital, and I didn't leave the hospital for 6 months. I underwent rigorous treatments, including radiation, chemotherapy, and a bone marrow transplant. When people hear the words bone marrow transplant, it sounds like it'd be extremely painful and this big, long process. I slept through mine. My donor is actually the person that had to undergo the painful part of the procedure. They went into his hip and took out bone marrow and gave it to me through my IV while I was sleeping. I didn't know this man. He was a complete stranger. He didn't have to save my life, but he chose to give me my life back, and for that I will always be grateful. Chemotherapy, a side effect of it is that you lose your hair. Just being 6 years old and losing the one thing that made you feel like a girl, I can't describe that feeling. Because chemotherapy wipes out your immune system, I was not allowed to leave my room in the hospital. So I was completely cut off from my friends. The only people that could come see me for the most part were my parents. I was lucky enough being so young that I had no idea that I could die. I knew something wasn't right. I felt sick all the time. I didn't want to get out of bed. I couldn't sleep. Everything I ate, I would throw up, to the point where I used to actually ask the nurses what would be the least horrible coming back up. I didn't want to move. I just wanted to go home and be a normal kid again. I eventually was transferred from Hasbro Children's Hospital to Boston Children's Hospital to undergo my bone marrow transplant. Growing up, the only outlet I had was dance. And when I was in Hasbro Children's Hospital not able to dance, it took a lot of myself away from me. But when I was transferred to the hospital with the airtight chamber, I could run around, I could dance again. They actually took my IV out of my arm so that I could be free for a little bit. I was running around, I was drinking like 8 jars of orange juice, and I didn't feel sick at all for the first few hours that I was there. Again, being so young, they did tell me I was in remission. I had no idea what that word meant. I was like, oh great, I have to go undergo another treatment, or they're gonna tell me I'm stuck here again. And then they literally loaded all my Christmas presents, which made my room look like Disney Wonderland, into all the carts, and they just wheeled me out of the building, and that was that. I didn't look back. Everyone would think that being let out of the hospital would be this great experience, you can be a kid again. That's not what happened. I wasn't allowed around my family for a few months. I wasn't allowed out in public without a mask on for like a year. I couldn't eat out of the same bag of chips as my mom or my dad. I had to have my own food. I could only sleep in my own bed. And being in the hospital for so long, like 6 years old, all I wanted to do was be able to like sit down with my mom and dad and watch a movie. But I couldn't do that because my immune system was still rebooting itself, and they couldn't take any chances with that. The first reel I ever attended was in my hometown, and when I walked out onto that field, I didn't know what I was going to be walking into. I had no idea that this many people already knew my story, and that many people were so appreciative that I was at that event willing to show my story and talk about it. Real Life for Life really does give those who went through cancer, or supporting those who went through cancer, an outlet in a group of people that they can talk to, a group of people that understand. It gives a sense of hope that you're really not alone. In going through something like cancer, you do feel like you're alone because it's just you who's sick. Your parents are there, your friends are there, but they're not the ones that are sick. At the end of the day, you're the one that ultimately deals with the consequences of what happens to you. And it's terrifying. At the first reel I ever attended, I was actually allowed to do my senior year solo of my story on the field for everyone to watch. When I was sick, I wasn't really allowed to do much, so being out of the hospital and allowed to dance again it became such a large part of my life, and I worked my entire senior year on that solo. So being asked by such a large organization to do it in front of all of these strangers, for everyone to know my story, know what was going on, it made me feel like I fit in again for the first time in a long time. Having cancer is way more than just a physical illness. It's a mental battle as well. It showed me how strong of a person I really am. It gave me a much different outlook on life than I probably would have if I didn't undergo it. I realize now what could have happened to me, but when I was 6, I just thought cancer was like the flu, that everyone else was gonna get it. I just got it before everyone else. I didn't really know what was going on. So being an adult now, knowing what I went through, it makes me really appreciate the fact that I'm able to sit here today and talk to people about what I went through, because a lot of people don't know how it feels to be on the inside of it. And I feel like it's really important to get that message out there. I realized through what I was going through that if it wasn't for the nurses and the extreme measures they took to try to brighten up my day, whether that be recording my favorite TV show, dressing up like Steve Irwin on Halloween because that was literally my idol when I was a kid, or opening the craft room at 2 a.m. so that when everyone else was in their rooms, I could go and do the craft that everyone else got to do during the day. It made me decide that I wanted to go into nursing and that I wanted to follow that career path and be that person there for those kids like those nurses were there for me. I found out last year that I'm actually at risk for having thyroid cancer because of the radiation I went through as a kid. And this hit me pretty hard because I knew I had cancer since I was little, and no one ever told me that it could come to this or that I would be at risk for this until I went for an ultrasound and they were like, you have nodules on your thyroid, we have to biopsy them. And I was like, what do you mean? Why do you have to biopsy them? And they're like, you didn't know radiation puts you at risk for getting thyroid cancer. So I started bawling because I was like, I don't want to go through this again. I can't go through this again. And I literally had the doctor look me in the eyes and tell me, you can't cry. You can't be upset right now. You need to lay still. We have to stick 5 needles in your neck while you're awake. I've never been so scared in my life. Having cancer again is the biggest fear of my life, and I have to face it every day now. Being a cancer survivor and having to go back to the hospital every 2 to 4 years to get checked again, I've learned to stop letting it bother me, because you can't live your life in fear, or for the rest of your life you're going to be the stereotypical, I'm a cancer patient. And I'm not a cancer patient. I had cancer, and there's a big difference.